Queensbridge rehab project public update meeting. We'll also be having an in-person session on Tuesday, September 16th. So I'll share more details at the end of the presentation, or you can scan the QR code on the screen for more info. Before we get started, I want to let everyone know that we are recording this meeting, and a copy will be published on the Projects Get Involved webpage. I see more people are joining, so I'll just give it another minute before we start. So anyone just joining, welcome again. We have city staff and our project consultants here today to explain more about the project and answer any questions. My name is Taylor. I'm a communication specialist with the City of London. Thank you all for coming, and please note that you will be muted and your cameras will be off for the presentation. The project team will speak on construction impacts and show design drawings for the Queensbridge Rehab project. The presentation will be followed by a Q&A session, so please use the Zoom Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit any questions anytime, and we'll answer them at the end. If you're uncomfortable asking a question during the recording, you can contact the project team afterwards. But right now, I'm just going to start with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Luna Nawapak, and the Andiwandran. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. We acknowledge all the treaties that are specific to this area: the Two-Row Wampum Belt Treaty of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Silver Covenant Chain, the Beaver Hunting Grounds of the Haudenosaunee-Nanfan Treaty of 1701, the McKee Treaty of 1790, the London Township Treaty of 1796, the Huron Tract Treaty of 1827 with the Anishinaabe, and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. The three Indigenous nations that are neighbors to London are the Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation, who all continue to live as sovereign nations with individual and unique languages, cultures, and customs. And with that, I will pass it over to Andrew to introduce our presenters.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Denemy, the Manager of Transportation Design. This project is being delivered by the city's Transportation Planning and Design Division with support from Stormwater Engineering, Parks Planning and Design, and Ecology staff who are also on the call today. The city's project manager is John Boss, Senior Transportation Technologist. He is unavailable for today's meeting, but he can be contacted afterward if there are any questions. And the city has retained AECOM to undertake the detailed design and tendering for the major rehabilitation of the Queens Bridge and the replacement of the erosion control structures along the east bank of the Thames River. This project was recommended through the city's asset management program as a life cycle renewal initiative to extend the service life of the bridge and also to protect and improve the Thames River shoreline. With that, I'll pass it to Carl.
Thanks, Andrew. My name is Carl Korostecki with AECOM, and I'll be giving you a bit of a presentation about the Queens Bridge project. So just to start, just go through an agenda here. We've already covered off the welcome and introduction, so I'll give you a little bit about the project. I'll go through an overview of the design as well as the construction. We'll touch on traffic management during construction, and finally I'll finish off with a project schedule, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. So a little bit about the project. The Queens Bridge, it's a continuous three-span steel plate girder structure, and it's located on Queens Avenue, crossing the Thames River just north of the Forks. So you can see on that little map there, the project is located between Rideout and Wilson Ave on Queens Ave. The bridge was originally constructed in 1973, which puts it at 52 years old, and it currently carries 2 lanes of westbound traffic, 1 bicycle lane, and 2 sidewalks. Queens Avenue is classified as a rapid transit boulevard in the London plan, and it supports an average daily traffic volume of 16,000 vehicles per day, and a significant number of pedestrians and cyclists. The bridge is showing advanced deterioration, particularly in the exposed concrete deck and the barrier walls, so it does need to be rehabilitated. A little bit of background about the Thames River shoreline. So there is an existing erosion control structures along the east bank of the Thames River. It currently consists of a gabion basket topped with armor stone. So you can see on that photo, I guess on both photos there, the gabion basket, it's stone that's in a steel mesh that's stacked up, and then there's some larger stones stacked on top. As part of this project, the extent of the shoreline extends from Harris Park on the north end, along the river, south of Queensbridge, south of Kensington Bridge, and then just south of Kensington Bridge, there's a stormwater outfall, which is the end of the extent of the project. And I will just note that some of the erosion control structures north of Queens Ave in Harris Park were replaced in 2024, and some of that work was wrapped up earlier this year. It's just looking at some past assessments that were done, past assessments and studies that were done on infrastructure in this area. So in 2018, there was a cultural heritage evaluation, as well as a preliminary structural design and structural evaluation carried out for the Queens Bridge that looked at the condition and what recommendations are required for this bridge. In 2019, there was a transit project assessment process that was done by the City of London for the Rapid Transit project. So that looked at widening of Queens Ave to accommodate future rapid transit. In 2021, there was some erosion control structure condition update study. So that looked at the shoreline along the Thames River, looking at the condition and providing recommendations for the future. And then in 2025, the Queens Bridge had a biannual bridge inspection completed. So every bridge in the city is looked at every 2 years. So the latest inspection was in 2025. Basically, after all these assessments and studies, the outcomes include that there is a recommendation to complete a full bridge deck replacement for the Queens Bridge, and that'll happen to accommodate future rapid transit lanes and extend the remaining service life for another 50 years. As well, there were recommendations for the need for shoreline improvements along the Thames River on the east side. It's just giving you a bit of an overview on the design. So the project objectives that we had going into this project, so we're looking to address structural deficiencies, improve the condition of the bridge, and extend the service life. You can see in some of those photos on the right there, the top photo is the concrete abutment. You can see some corrosion staining there, some exposed reinforcing steel. The middle photo there is the parapet wall on top of the bridge. It's got a lot of rust staining. You can see the steel bars. So we're looking to replace those and improve the condition of the bridge. We'll also be looking to improve mobility for transit and active transportation, as well as enhancing pedestrian safety. And then as far as the shoreline, we're looking to protect the shoreline, improving resiliency to climate change, and supporting natural heritage features along the Thames River. So this graphic here just gives you a bit of an aerial view of the site in the area and shows kind of where we'll be doing the work. So you can see highlighted in yellow there, that's the Queens Bridge. So that'll be, the deck will be replaced and widened. Shown in red, stretching from Rideout Street easterly to the bridge and across, is a new multi-use path that'll go in. As well, on each end of the bridge, you can see in green some road work and tie-ins that'll happen, just because we are widening the bridge, and the bridge will actually, currently it has an exposed concrete deck. We'll be putting asphalt wearing surface on top. So we do need to do some road work just to build it up to the right elevation. As well, on the east end of the bridge, you can see highlighted in blue, there's 2 staircases that go from Queens Ave down to Harris Park Gate. As part of this project, we're looking to remove and replace those. On the west side of this graphic, you can see in orange some new pedestrian crossings that'll be installed across both Queens Avenue and Riverside. And finally, on the east shoreline of the Thames River in purple, you can see the extent of the shoreline protection improvements that we'll be doing. So as far as the bridge rehabilitation, so we'll be looking to replace the existing exposed concrete deck, and we'll be changing the, or I guess we'll be eliminating the deck joints on the bridge. So a lot of times at the ends of the bridge, you'll find deck joints. Over time, those joints can leak, which then affects the structure below the roadway. So in order to prolong the life, we're looking to put in a different detail so that we can eliminate those deck joints. I will also be replacing the barrier walls and providing an updated railing. You can see on that bottom photo there, the barrier walls are not in the best shape anymore, so those will be replaced. As well, as mentioned previously, we'll be constructing a new multi-use path on the bridge. We'll be widening the bridge to accommodate future rapid transit lanes. As well, we'll be replacing bearings at the piers and the abutments. There'll be some concrete repairs that will be done to the substructure, some localized structural steel coating at the ends of the bridge, and that's to prevent rusting of the abutments from the exposed steel. As well, we'll be looking at putting in some enhanced aesthetics with some under bridge lighting. So just looking at the existing cross section of the bridge, so we can see here, currently the bridge is just under 17.4 meters wide, and we have got two westbound lanes and a sidewalk on both the north and south sides of the bridge, as well as parapet walls with steel railings. And you can see in the current sidewalks, we've got a number of utilities that cross the bridge on both the north and the south. And then we've got an abandoned gas main hung underneath and a water main on the north side. So just flipping to the next slide here, we've got the new bridge cross section. So you can see here, we've widened the bridge to 18.85 meters, so just under 1.5 meters widening. And that's to accommodate, we will accommodate two westbound through lanes. It will also provide a westbound bus lane. And then we do have room for a future eastbound transit lane that can be accommodated. We've eliminated the sidewalk on the south side to provide room for that future eastbound transit lane, but we have put in a wider 3-meter multi-use path on the north, complete with new concrete parapets and steel railings. And then you can see the utilities have been moved because there's no sidewalk on that south side anymore. Those utilities will be relocated to be underneath the bridge between the girders. As well, we'll be eliminating the abandoned gas main, and then the water main will remain in place. So looking at some of the road work that'll happen as part of this project. So we'll be doing some underground utility replacements. The north sidewalk will be removed on the northeast side. And that'll be replaced with that 3-meter multi-use path extending from right out to the bridge and then across. There will be some road widening that will be required at the bridge approaches just to tie in the roadway to that new bridge cross section. As well, we'll be adding the new pedestrian signal crossing on the west end of the bridge, and that'll provide increased connectivity for the Thames Valley Parkway. And we'll be replacing the existing stairs connecting the sidewalks from Queens Avenue to Harris Park Gate, which you can see in that bottom right photo. So looking at some of the erosion control and Thames Valley Parkway path reconstruction. So in the left photo there, you can see that's the existing gabion basket retaining wall. So a lot of the steel baskets are corroding. This photo doesn't show it well, but there are sections where there's some of that stone missing, and you can see that there's some vegetation growing in that as well. So we'll be looking to replace that aging infrastructure to continue protecting the shoreline. On the right-hand photo, you can see that's the West London Dike. So that's a mechanically stabilized earth system that's been installed along the west shoreline. So we'll be looking to match something like that aesthetically on the east side for continuity. And then there's also a pathway at the top of this retaining wall. So we'll be looking to replace that pathway and provide some improvements. And just to note that the work we're doing here will tie into that recent Harris Park shoreline just to the north. So as part of this construction, we will require some tree removals. We are looking to limit these as much as possible. However, to gain access and provide the contractor with sufficient laydown, there are some trees that will need to be removed. So we've highlighted those here. Starting on the west there, you can see there's some trees in the median between Queens Avenue and Riverside that need to be removed. As well on the north side in the park, there's two small trees there that'll have to be removed. However, we've identified the large trees adjacent to Labatt Park. Those will be protected during construction. And then there's some vegetation removal that's required along the Thames Valley Parkway, noted in green there. In removing the existing wall, that vegetation will have to be removed, as well at the stairs on the east end. On the north stairs, there's some vegetation removal, and then on the south stairs, there's actually some trees growing in that embankment that'll also have to be removed. And then there's a number of trees close to the museum, and those will be protected during construction. And then following construction, as part of site restoration, there'll be some new plantings that are included to compensate for these removals. So to give you an overview of construction, the approximate construction duration that we're looking at would be from March 2026, ending in December 2026, with some finishing touches in 2027. The bridge rehab will be completed in 2 stages to maintain traffic on Queens Ave. So during the stage construction, there will be westbound traffic on Queens Ave that'll be reduced to 1 lane, but the bridge will remain open. There will be some short duration bridge closures with traffic detours anticipated. However, we'll be trying to minimize those as much as possible. Harris Park Gate, that's located below the bridge, which is the entrance to Harris Park, that'll be closed for the duration of construction. That's to allow the contractor some area for staging and storage. We will maintain access to Museum London throughout construction. And we will have some temporary detouring for the TVP during construction, noting that we are rebuilding a section of the TVP, so that needs to be closed off and detoured. And then, as noted previously, there will be some tree protection installed, and that'll be maintained throughout construction to protect the trees that are not designated for removal. And just typical working hours are expected to be between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. to abide by the City of London noise bylaws. So looking at the construction zone, you can see on this figure in purple is the work zone limits. So starting from the east, it stretches along Queens Ave from Rideout towards the bridge. We've got the 2 staircases shown there as well. And then stretching along Harris Park Gate up to the north to Harris Park, and then southerly to Dundas, as well along the pathway just south of Kensington Bridge to the north part of Ivy Park. And then continuing westerly across the bridge, the work zone would continue to the end of the median there between Riverside and Queens, and then it'll stretch a little bit into the park on the north side, and then just across Riverside there for that pedestrian crossing. You can see in yellow where we anticipate the contractor would have temporary storage and staging. So on top of the bridge, depending on which stage they're in, they'll either be on the north or the south side of Queens. And then along Harris Park Gate will be kind of a primary laydown area as well. So looking at some traffic and pedestrian management that'll take place during this construction. For the bridge, just looking at the construction staging. So in stage one, there'll be some traffic control measures that are installed to maintain that single lane of westbound traffic, as well as the sidewalk will remain open, and that'll allow us to remove and reconstruct the north half of the bridge. Once that north half is constructed, we would shift the traffic control measures to maintain that westbound lane on the new portion of the bridge, and that'll allow us to remove and replace the south side. Taking a look at the TVP detour routes. So as I've noted, the TVP will be closed on the west shoreline, or I guess on the west side of the river. The TVP will be closed at Rogers Ave in the north, and that'll be extended down to Queens, and then the pathway that goes underneath Queens and Kensington will also be closed. I will note there is another project happening in Mitchell, A. Barron Park. So the TVP in that section will be closed as part of that project as well. So detouring for someone that's coming southbound on the TVP, they would be directed to exit the TVP onto Rogers Ave and then make their way westerly to Wilson Ave, and then to the south to Riverside. And then at Riverside and Wilson, there is a pedestrian signalized crossing that'll get you to the south side of Riverside. And then from there, there is a bike path and sidewalks that can take you either east or west. Coming northbound, so crossing Riverside at the signals, again, you'll be directed to go north on Wilson, east on Rogers, and then that'll connect back to the TVP going north. On the east side of the river, we'll be closing the TVP at the south side of Harris Park, and that'll extend both to Dundas along Harris Park Gate and to Ivy Park on the pathway that goes below the bridges. So that the detouring for that side of the river, for southbound TVP users, you'll be directed from Harris Park to take Harris Park entry up the hill to Rideout, and then you'll go south on Rideout down to Dundas, east on Dundas to Kensington Bridge, and there's the signalized crossing there to get you south to back on the TVP. For northbound traffic coming from Ivy Park, so you'll go east on Dundas and then north on Rideout, connecting to Harris Park entry, down the hill into Harris Park, and then you can continue on the TVP from there. I will also note there is a project currently on the east side, just south of what we're showing here, which is the London Siphon project. They've got some work going on there, and there's some detouring there as well. Depending on the timing of when that work will be finished next year, we may have to incorporate our detour routes with theirs. So looking at mitigating the construction impacts, the city will continue to emphasize communication and coordination to minimize any potential impacts to residents, businesses, and events during the construction. So there are some resources that'll be provided to businesses to help navigate the construction. As well, there'll be some wayfinding signs posted to help communicate construction plans, detours, and timelines. And I just wanted to add that we are consulting with the city's special events department and the Rock the Park just to coordinate construction with some of the events that are taking place in Harris Park during 2026. And taking a look at the project schedule, so looking at the activities that are happening between now and construction. So we're currently in the detailed design phase, and that's slated to be completed in the fall. Following that, there'll be some advanced tree removals. So that'll be happening either in the fall or winter 2026. The project is planned to be awarded in early 2026. And then advanced construction notices would be put up 2 weeks prior to construction. There's some bird mitigation measures, so bird netting on the bridge, that'll happen in March of 2026 before construction starts. And then construction would commence in the spring and continue to December 2026. And with that, I'll pass it back to Taylor.
Awesome. Thank you. So we will be having an in-person drop-in session on Tuesday, September 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Museum London. You can scan the QR code that will bring you to the Get Involved webpage where you can opt in for email notifications at different project milestones, or you can contact the project team anytime. And the contact information is on the screen there. So we will now begin to take questions. To ask your question, please use the Q&A feature on Zoom. This icon is located at the bottom of your screen and is marked with the word Q&A. Your comments are also welcome, and we will be collecting all of them for the project team to review after the meeting. If you have any questions about specific properties or details you would like to discuss individually with the team, you can leave your contact info in your comment or can connect with us directly by email, phone, or submitting your question through the Get Involved webpage. So let's dive into some questions. Um, Kensington Bridge is slated for an LRC as well, from my memory. When will this project be initiated?
Yes, correct. This has also been identified through our asset management program to be rehabilitated in the near term. Currently, it's planned for rehabilitation in 2027.
Thank you, Andrew. One more question. What will tree removals be replaced with?
Tree removals will conform to the city's standards and they will be approved by the city's forestry operation division. There are specified trees within our standards that are permitted, and that will be confirmed and reviewed through the finalization of our detailed design.
Awesome. So far, no more questions. I'm just gonna sit on it here. If anyone has a question, please leave it in the chat below. Here we go. What type of pedestrian crossing will we see at the west end?
Pedestrian crossings will be a intersection pedestrian signal, so they will be signalized.
If anyone has any further questions, please leave them down below in the Q&A. I'm gonna give it 2 more minutes just to see if anyone has any last minute questions or are jumping on late. Um, um, they saw lots of highlights for staging of equipment. Can you expand on that staging and what to expect?
So in general, the bridge construction will occur over 2 stages. During each stage, traffic will be maintained. Um, and there is a potential for as well short-term road closures in order to facilitate construction of the deck. Um, I will also let Carl expand on the requirements for staging as well.
Yeah, sure. Taylor, if you want to flip back to that slide
Yeah,
that showed the staging, can talk about that a little bit more. If you go back one more,
one more.
uh, that one there. Yeah, perfect. Um, so because we're doing this in the bridge replacement in two, or deck replacement in two stages, we've identified zones on either end of the bridge in yellow there. Um, we're showing across the whole roadway, but the contractor would use one side depending on which side of the bridge they're working on. So they would have some storage on top of the bridge, or I guess equipment on top of the bridge on either end because we are removing that deck. So both ends are required. And then down below on Harris Park Gate would be the majority of any stockpiling of materials, equipment. Um, Depending on how the contractor ends up constructing this, um, there may be a need for a crane set up down below. Um, but we'll see how the contractor plans their work. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything else, but I'm just gonna leave it open for a couple more minutes. If anyone's joining us late and has a question, please throw it in the Q&A down below. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions come through. So, oh, let me just double check. Um, so thank you everyone for joining. The presentation recording will be posted on the Get Involved page soon after this, and then feedback can also be submitted via Get Involved. And please contact the project team with any further questions or comments. Thank you, everyone.